Thank you, everyone. My name is Judge Mathias Delort. I am currently sitting as a judge at the Daly Center, where I hear chancery cases, mostly involving real estate, and I am the endorsed Democratic Party candidate for the appellate court for the vacancy of the late Justice Cahill. For those of you who are looking at your ballot and need a reference, this is the first appellate court race on the ballot right after the Supreme Court. I want to talk a little bit about sort of where I come from and why I'm running this year. I've been on the bench for 5 years now, and when I was first appointed to the court, I was immediately given a very difficult and challenging assignment in a high-volume courtroom. That has been a very rewarding experience for me. I deal with a number of people every day in my courtroom who face challenges in their lives, as do all of the judges who sit on the bench. I am looking for a different position to the appellate court. The appellate court is not a court where we hear trials or witnesses. It is a safety net for the entire court system, because in Illinois, if you have a court case, you have the right to one appeal up to the appellate court as a matter of right. So the judges of the appellate court have two important responsibilities. First, they must make sure that the judge in the lower court did the right thing and followed the law and obeyed the evidence. Secondly, when they make those kinds of decisions, they have to make sure that they set an appropriate precedent, because when the appellate court rules, all the other courts in the state must follow that precedent. Prior to becoming a judge, I spent over 20 years practicing law. I had a very interesting practice over that period of time. My primary areas of practice were local government and election law, and I want to talk about each of them briefly. People think, well, what's local government law? Local government law means that I worked with suburban governments, school districts, townships, community colleges. I worked with boards of education, with suburban mayors and suburban villages. Almost all of my clients that I had over that period of time were in the south suburbs. Over the years, I served as the attorney or one of the attorneys for Alsip, Robbins, Park Forest, Rich Township, Hazel, Crest School District, South Suburban College, Prairie State College, and many others in this area. So I'm very familiar with the problems that are faced by the south suburbs, economically in particular. I realize that tax dollars are difficult to obtain when you don't have industry, as you have in the south suburbs, and I helped those mayors, those school board presidents, those community college leaders try to meet their legal obligations economically. And I have the support of almost all the south suburban mayors and elected officials that I worked with, and I'm very grateful for that support. As an election lawyer, I got my start working for free for a candidate named Harold Washington and many people who were with his administration and were supporting him. I was involved in his campaigns and helped him make sure he was on the ballot correctly. I was in court on election day making sure his votes were properly counted, and I did that because I supported his candidacy and wanted to make sure that he prevailed in his struggle to become mayor of Chicago. That sort of was the starting point of my career as an election lawyer. I worked for many years in that field representing many progressive candidates, not only here in the south suburbs but across the state of Illinois. Right now, I teach other judges by the request of the Supreme Court. I also teach election law at the John Marshall Law School as a night class. And one of the things I teach my students in that class is the historical background of where they came from and where we're coming to and where we're at today. Because the young students I teach who are 22, they're 27, they take the right to vote for granted. And they don't realize that the struggles people have undergone in this country to get that right to vote and to make sure their right to vote is properly counted. So I don't teach them only cases from 1990 or 2000. I teach them cases from 1920. And so they have that illustration of what was done to stop people from voting and what the Supreme Court of the United States had to do in increments over the years to ensure the right to vote for all citizens. Now let's flash forward to 2012, where we are today. The appellate court is a writing job, it's an intellectual job. It's something I will really enjoy. As a trial court judge, I have written over 100 opinions because I believe if I have a controversial case, if I have a complex case, if I have a case with a lot of issues, the people before me, whether they're companies or individuals, deserve to have the reasons in writing. And I make sure that they get those so they understand why I reached my decision. And if there's an appeal, then the higher court knows why I reached that decision as well. Because of my background and my bar ratings, the Democratic Party endorsed me as the candidate for this vacancy. I'm also endorsed by Cook County President Tony Preckwinkle and many other elected officials, as well as the independent voters of Illinois. Many candidates today have talked to you about bar ratings. I have received nothing but great bar ratings throughout my career. I want to focus on one particular aspect about my bar ratings for this year's election. There are three major bar associations, the ones that have thousands and thousands of members or are very well established for many decades. Those are the Chicago Bar Association, the Illinois Bar Association, and the Chicago Council of Lawyers. These are the three major associations that are considered the gold standard of bar ratings. They're the ones who undertake the most thorough investigations of the judges, who interview the most lawyers who appear before you. They interview your bosses in the judicial system to find out what's this person really like. And all three of those associations gave me a great rating. They didn't merely rate me qualified. Chicago and Illinois State gave me the highest possible rating, which is highly qualified. The Council of Lawyers gave me a well-qualified rating, which they only gave to a few people this year. Now, you may hear a lot of candidates talk about their bar ratings, but I want to make a point about mine. Since the year 2000, 12 years ago, there have been 61 people run for the appellate court from Cook County. They all went through the rating process. Only 2 of them got ratings that good from those 3 major associations. One was a judge who's now retired, and the other one is me this year. So for those of you who are looking at the bar ratings, you can be assured that 3 varied bar associations gave me those extraordinary ratings, and many of the smaller bar associations did so as well. I'm asking everybody who is listening to this today to remember on March 20th, or for early voting earlier, to support Delort for the court. That's my slogan. And to remember to punch 112 in 2012. I appreciate your attention, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.